Hey guys, what's going on? I couldn't get the tournament on video. My GoPro was still acting up, and it still is acting up. So that's something that really sucked, because I was trying to get the whole practice on video. I was trying to get the whole tournament, you know, both of those tournaments on video. But we just didn't end up making it happen, which sucks. But I can go through and I'm gonna break down a little bit how, you know, I'm gonna talk you through how practice and how the tournament went. Actually, you know what? I'll do the practice video separately. This will be the tournament video. So I'll break down.
Right here. Right here. Right here.
Oh God! Slide him! This is Fight for Your Right Fishing. The tournament video. So I'll break down how the tournament went. I had a main lake point deal that I was catching fish on, and then they were suspended on some bluffs as they were transitioning up, getting you know, somewhat ready to spawn. They were just sliding out from their winter haunts, you know, getting to that spring transition. So started off in the morning for the first tournament, and ran to one of the first points that I had, and boom, caught a 3-pounder right off the bat. And I was like, okay, cool, you know, that's a great start. It was a 3 fish limit, so I was like, all right, first spot, like third cast. I was like, we're already a third of the way there. Ran a bunch more points and just could not get bit. And I think the reason was I was fishing the wrong points. I had a buddy that kind of told me some information about some of the points he was catching fish on that ended up just, whether it was true or not, it did not work for me at all. I could not get bit on what he was saying. So if he caught fish doing it, cool. If he didn't and he lied to me, you know, it happens. I guess it's tournament fishing. But so after that, I ran a lot of points trying to make it work, and it just didn't work. I fished until like 11 before I said, all right, this obviously isn't working anymore. I'm gonna have to find something different. So I switched over and started fishing some bluffs. Ended up catching like a 15.5 incher, and they had to be 15 inches to keep. Probably like noon. It's like, all right, cool. You know, got one. Fished another transitional where the creek channel kind of came up. Right, like 1 o'clock, bam, caught a 3.5, and I was like, all right, sweet. You know, that's the kind we need. And then had another really long lull. You know, I was like, all right, I got a limit. I really just got to call 1 fish out in order to do good, and I need to call 2 out in order to do really good. So just kind of bounced around. Ran into that same guy that had told me a little bit deal about the points that didn't work, and he told me a little deal he was fishing, and I was like, all right. So I found a bluff wall that looked very similar to kind of what he described, and it was very similar to ones I was fishing in practice anyway, just different one. And we were doing at 4 o'clock. It was like 3:20. Pulled up to that bluff, boom, caught a 4-pounder. It was like 4 1/4, and I was like, yes. So that ended up being basically that whole tournament day. And my key baits were basically jerkbait. I think I caught everything I weighed in that first tournament on a jerkbait, and that's just how that went. I was throwing Megabass Vision 110 +1 and a +2, and what I would do is on the really sheer bluffs, I would throw that +1 because those fish were suspended, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 feet down, so that 110 +1 really covered that zone really well. And then when I fished some of the bluffs that had shelves on them, I would throw that +2 to get down a little bit deeper, to try to get on that transitional area. That's how I caught a couple fish. But that was how that first tournament went, and it was the individual tournament. I ended up in 11th place out of 54 anglers. I weighed in 11.3 with 3 fish, so I had a pretty good average. I had almost a 4-pound average, which, you know, it's not bad. But those guys were really catching them. 13, 9, 8, 1, you know, so they were having almost a 5-pound average, which is kind of what I expected. But you know, I don't know what else I was, after my practice, it's kind of how it went, you know. I felt really good about it, gained some really good points, learned a lot. So let's talk a little bit about what I learned. I learned that even if other people are telling you stuff, try to stick with your gut and stick with what you find. You know, if everything you find doesn't work, then kind of branch out, but you know, stick with what you found versus what other people are telling you, because there's a lot of doc talk, and that's where you can kind of get swayed a little bit on what you're doing. So it's important to, you know, stick to your guns, and also important to adapt on the fly. Like, I fished those points till 11 o'clock. I should have fished them till we took off at 8. I should have fished them till about 9:30. And if I didn't have a bite, I should have just bailed on it. That's because the conditions during the tournament ended up being sunny, clear skies, and really windy. And those fish just were not setting up on those points. In all of practice I had, it was overcast and rainy or snowy. So those fish were slid up on those points a little bit more. And I should have transitioned those bluffs a lot faster, but I didn't. Which leads me to the second tournament, which there was a buddy tournament right after that. So I had a smallmouth pattern, and the guy I was fishing with had a largemouth pattern. He weighed in all largemouth, I weighed in all smallmouth. And I was like, all right, cool, we'll do the smallmouth deal in the morning, and then as the weather warms up, we'll go into the largemouth deal. And all of practice, it was anywhere from like 55 degrees to about 30 degrees. But it was cooling off. It was a cooling trend. So the first day of practice, it was like 50 degrees. The second day of practice, it was like 30 degrees and snowing all day. So what happened was it got really, really cold that night. It got down to like 24 degrees. And the first tournament, my rod lockers were froze shut. I could not get them open. I was using my bump board. I was pouring water on them all morning. I could only get them open far enough in order to get a couple of my rods out. I was able to get a couple of my jerkbait rods out and then a jig rod out, just in case it slowed down a little bit. And that was it. And it ended up peeling my carpet up a little bit, which sucks, but it's, you know, it's an easy fix. So it was like 24 degrees both tournament mornings, clear skies, real sunny. And the first tournament was really windy. The second tournament, there was no wind. It was like flat calm. So what we did was we ran to the first main lake point that I had. It was a real steep point, and like, again, like third cast in the morning, caught a 5.66, and I was like, that, and it was a 5 fish limit for the buddy tournament, but I was like, that is awesome, you know, that's a great start to the morning. So caught that 5.66, ran another steep point, caught a 2-pounder, ran a couple more steep points, didn't get bit, and then we instantly transitioned over into fishing bluffs, and I caught another 15.5 incher. I was like, all right, we got 3 by, we took off at 7, we had 3 by 9:30. I was like, all right, you know, it's a good start to the morning. It's a lot better start than I had the previous morning. So then we transitioned over and started fishing one of the other bluffs that I had, that a co-angler I had the first tournament caught like a 3-pound largemouth on, and I had got some bites in practice on. And we transitioned over there, and I was still throwing that jerk bait, trying to see if any of those fish were, you know, suspended on that. And my buddy ended up catching a 5-pound largemouth and then a 3-pound largemouth right after that. And I was like, all right, you know, we got a limit by 11:30. I was like, that is, and we got 2 good ones. Like, we got 2 of the right kind. That was a really big key for us. And right after that, I called out one of them. I called out one of the smallmouth with like a 2.5-pound smallmouth. I was like, sweet, there we go, we got another one. And then we had another really long lull where we ran a bunch of his largemouth stuff. We had a couple missed opportunities. He was catching them all on a mag draft because it was really windy the first tournament, so he was catching those largemouth on laydowns on a mag draft, a white mag draft. And you know, I was really excited to get on that bite. I'm not gonna lie, I had one rigged up. I was like, let's go. I'm super pumped to catch him on this. I've never had a mag draft bite. I want to do it. And with that lack of wind, I had a good smallmouth, probably 3.5 smallmouth, chase a mag draft in, but just would not eat it. And then I lost, it didn't feel like a big fish, I lost a fish on a tube. And that was it for his largemouth stuff. It just, with that lack of wind, it killed that bite. So we ended up having to rely solely on my deal. We ran some more of his largemouth stuff, and it wasn't working. And I said, all right, let's go back and fish some of these bluffs and try to make it work. We ran back, fished that one where we caught a couple big largemouth on and didn't get any more bites. Fished a couple more, didn't get any more bites, and then, you know, tried to run a couple more deals, and it just was not working. So we ended up weighing in just shy of 18 pounds. It's like 17.98, 17.97, which was, you know, it's not a bad day. It's hard to complain when you get 18 pounds, but when you're on a fishery that's pumping big ones out for the right guys, when you're on the right deal, it's not going to cut it. So we ended up in 8th out of like 24 teams. 23.5 pounds won it. They were catching big fish. Same guy that had won the individual tournament won the buddy tournament. He just found a magical deal where they were pulling up and he was catching them. So, you know, overall, what did I learn? I learned to ignore the dock talk a little bit, try to do your own deal. And then I also learned that when they're, you know, it was a river system, so it was tough because a lot of the river looked exactly the same. Had really steep 45 degree banks, and just creek channel swings. So what did I learn? I learned that you should go through and idle all those creek channel swings and find the little magical spots on it. And what do I mean by magical spots? I mean, you know, obviously idle it, fish it, and see what's different about each one, because where everything looks the same, the fish are going to be setting up in very similar places throughout the whole thing. So you have to kind of break down one, and that'll key you into where they are on every one. So what do I learn? I learned that you should idle each one, like idle one of those, and try to look for individual high spots and rocky spots on that. Maybe find some trees that are sticking off a little bit further. Try to break down the little idiosyncrasies that those bluffs have, those 45-degree banks have, because I was just burning a lot of water throwing that jerkbait and trying to find fish that were suspended chasing bait. And while it semi-worked, I needed to take another step further in order to do really, really well. And I feel like that's where I get stuck a lot. I do good, but I don't do over the top good, and I need to break through that last little wall to try to figure out things on each body of water. But that was a big thing that I learned. And then what did I also learn is don't rule out largemouth. I ruled them out right at practice when I looked at the weather in the morning and saw that it was supposed to be a cold front with 24-degree weather. I ruled them out. I didn't even practice for them, didn't even look for them. Where I could have ran up the river later in the day and tried to figure it out, because my buddy weighed in a good bag of largemouth, but it was the only bag of largemouth that did good. So, you know, all the smallmouth won. You know, everybody that got paid caught smallmouth. So I wasn't off on my prediction for that, but, you know, it could have got me a fish or two that might have really helped. So, you know, always keep an open mind. And I guess I just got locked into the whole lake looking very, very similar and kind of freaked out a little bit and just tried to cover water, you know, just try to get on those banks, which is what a lot of people were doing. So I needed to really break it down a little bit more than I did. But overall, it was a good tournament, and you know, got some really good points going into the next event, which is going to be on the Potomac River, which I'm really excited for because I love to power fish like that. And yeah, so I'm going to do another I'm going to try to get this GoPro fixed and try to get everything rolling for the next event. I think it dried out a little bit more, but it just got wet, and it, you know, led to me not being able to record it. So hopefully I get everything fixed. I'm looking to get another GoPro so I can get a couple more angles on it. But overall, thanks for watching. I appreciate all the support you guys are giving me right now. I need every little bit of it. You know, sometimes when practice is tough, but hopefully you guys like these videos. If you do, be sure to, you know, hit that subscribe button and follow the channel. And, you know, just keep along with this journey I got going on. Here in about a month, we got the first Bassmaster Open. So we're going to try to get everything on GoPro for that. And I'm excited for it. It's going to be on the James River, which is a fishery that I like. Only fished it once, but I like how it sets up. So, you know, stay tuned. And like I said, thanks for all the love, guys. And, you know, hope to see you guys out on the water.